Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on Stories by You, where we hear stories of hope and healing and help. And I invite you to listen to this podcast with my good friend Mikell, where she's going to be sharing her story and how she navigated through some of her challenges with the diagnosis and something that she heard from the doctor. So I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to turn this over to Mikell. I appreciate her very much for taking the time so she can share her story with us. Welcome, Mikell. Thank you so much for your friendship and being here on my YouTube channel. I appreciate it.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here, Farnaz. It's really an honor to be here with you. I love your YouTube channel and I love hearing all the stories, that you bring forth for people to be able
Thank
to talk about their journeys of healing.
So you navigated through so much. So I turn this over to you so you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, anything you want to share with our audience. You got the floor.
Sure. My name is Mikell Reed Carroll. I'm a 46-year-old wife, mom, nonprofit attorney. I have two children, Danny and Franny. They're age 5 and 9. And those the kids take up much of my life right now. We recently just moved back to the United States. My husband is a diplomat. So we've lived around the world. We've lived in Nicaragua, Vietnam, Croatia, and most recently Serbia. And Serbia is actually where I was when I received my diagnosis. We were about 1 month from moving back to the Washington, D.C. area. And I had been having some hip pain. And lo and behold, I was diagnosed with a rare condition. So that's sort of what I've been dealing with since about June of last year. And in the process of hopefully trying to heal.
I would love to hear a little bit more of how things started. I know you said it was a hip issue, but tell us a little bit about how you found out, how you advocated and researched for what you went through just recently.
Sure. So I had been having about 5 or 6 months of pretty bad hip pain. I had a bit of a limp on most days. So, right before we were leaving Serbia, where, by the way, medical care is quite good, but also very cheap, I said, I think I'm going to get an MRI while I'm here just to check it out. It's probably nothing big. I've had hip pain, for years. So, I didn't think too much of it because I had an injury when I was actually a very young girl. I broke my leg. So I didn't think too much about it. I thought it was something probably related to that. So I went in for my MRI on a Friday. The next day, Saturday, I had an appointment with an orthopedic surgeon to speak with him about the results. And I sat down and he looked at me and he said, Mikell, you have avascular necrosis. And I looked at him and said, oh, okay, what's that? I've never heard of that. And he said, well, both your hips, due to a lack of blood flow, they're both dying. And I was like, what? I'm sorry. Like, did you say my hips are dying? And he said, yeah, both of your hip bones are dying and soon they'll collapse and you won't be able to walk. And of course, I was thinking, hoping this must be some sort of language problem here. Maybe he doesn't speak English very well, or I'm hearing something wrong. And I mean, I was just in shock, of course. And then he looked at me and he said, you should probably get some crutches. And I was like, looking at him and I'm like, today I should get, like, are you joking? And he said, no, you should stop walking. You should get some crutches because one of your hips is in really bad shape. So with my particular condition, it's a rare condition. It's called avascular necrosis. It can affect any joints, but most commonly it's in the hips. I have it bilaterally, which means I have it in both hips. And my right hip was staged at 3, my left hip at stage 1. So stage 3, there's 4 stages. Stage 4 is collapse. So stage 3 is right before collapse. Stage 1 is just the beginning. So again, I was shocked. So I called my husband crying and said, please come pick me up. And he, of course, was going, oh my gosh, what's wrong? And I said, I'll tell you when, he gets in the car. So he came and picked me up and I told him and, we sort of cried together. And he said, no matter what, you were going to figure out what to do. Worst case scenario, when we did some research, we found that the worst case scenario is that I would need hip replacements. And thankfully, this is not a life-threatening type of condition. It is serious, but it's not life-threatening. So that made me feel a little bit better. And then after being, of course, devastated for a few days, depressed, frankly, just sort of trying to figure out, what is this? What am I going to do? My life is ending, all the things you go through when you get some sort of a diagnosis. Then I said to myself, I really need to do some research on this and figure out if there are any alternatives to getting full hip replacements. Um, so I did. I started looking online, immediately started looking up things, but making sure I was really using top notch research,
Mhm.
meaning that I was only looking at things from the Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic, National Institute of Health, Yale, Stanford, those types of places that I knew would have really accurate information. And then lo and behold, I found this video from Yale with a young doctor named Dr. Daniel Wisnia, and he was talking about a procedure he had developed um, for people with avascular necrosis in their hips.
Mm.
And fortunately, he's an engineer. So, in addition to being a doctor, so he has a really unique way of thinking about things. And what he did is he took what's called a core decompression, which is sort of a traditional type of surgery that's been around for quite a while for people with avascular necrosis. And essentially, what that involves is drilling holes into your hip bones to promote some blood flow, and hoping that that sort of helps to promote blood flow, and that that blood flow can maybe help to heal your bones, which is what blood does to keep your hips and your bones alive.
Mm.
So his procedure was much more targeted, so it made it less invasive,
Mhm.
meaning that the day of your surgery, you could actually walk and bear weight on your hips, whereas the traditional core decompression doesn't allow any weight bearing for a minimum of 6 to 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, thinking 6 to 12 weeks per hip, I've got two kids. Like, I can't lay in bed for 3 to 6 months trying to, heal myself. Like, I need something that's a little bit more quick. Um, and I'm also a beauty queen, pageant coach. I have a lot of things going on, so I'm pretty busy.
Mm.
And this just sounded to me like sort of a miracle procedure. In addition to that, what they do as part of this procedure is take stem cells and bone graft from your pelvis, and then they make a 3D model of your femoral head, which is basically your hip bone. And they target exactly where that AVN or avascular necrosis is. And then they're able to remove all the bad stuff and sort of the dead bone tissue, and then put in place of that the really nice new sort of healthy stem cells and bone graft. And in addition to that, do the traditional sort of little hole that they drill in with the blood flow, and hope that that helps to really heal your body on its own. And so again, I looked this up, found a video, and then immediately found this doctor's contact information and emailed him and sent him my story and said, "Hi, I'm really hoping you can help me. This is my situation." And to be honest with you, not expecting much. I'm thinking, okay, I probably won't hear from this person. And then 2 days later, I got an email from him, and he said, "Mikell, I think I can help you. Let's see when you're going to be in the US and let's set up an appointment."
Wow.
And yeah, then within about 5 weeks, I had my first appointment, and then I had my first surgery scheduled for September.
This is so amazing, like the science and that the resources that are available, just digging more into it and not giving up. I love these type of stories, and I think women in general is they're not heard enough in the medical field, and I think it's okay for us to navigate through those and make sure we have the right doctors and make sure we advocate for ourselves. But going back to when you found out, I was just thinking about this. It must have been really difficult emotionally. No one likes to hear anything. We get like stressed out when we have to go for a routine exam, when we do our
Hmm.
blood work. I can't imagine you going to your doctor and they find something that you have to sit through and they explain that things may just collapse. I mean, how did you handle the emotions and I know you had to take time to go through that, but how did you handle that, you and your spouse?
Absolutely. So in those first moments, of course, I mean, I was in shock. when
Mhm.
I got home and started to process it more, I was really grieving. That was the point where I was scared and I was grieving and thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm losing my life as I know it. What
Mhm.
is happening here? I'm only at the time I was 45, I've got these young kids. What am I going to do? Am I going to be in a wheelchair?" I mean, thinking all the things that you think when you get a diagnosis like that. You think about the worst case scenarios. You worry, what's going to happen to my kids? I can't be in a wheelchair. I don't really want to have hip replacements at age 45. All these things running through my mind. And of course, part of me thinking too, well, maybe this is from something else. Like maybe this isn't it. Maybe this is I've got cancer or something worse. You hear these things and your mind tends to run a little wild. So I went through all those things, and then, for a couple days, like I said, I was devastated and pretty depressed. I mean, I was up in my room, just sort of crying and really just in despair. I wasn't in control, and I'm a person who likes to have control of my life, so I felt just sort of helpless, hopeless. All of those things were running through my mind, of course. And then I did start to feel better when I started to do research and started to really try to take control more of the situation. And then I did get a second opinion, of course, as well. And the second opinion, from a medical group in the United States, was you need surgery within 4 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
And that was also a little bit shocking because at the time I was actually Ms. USA Universe, and I was preparing to compete in the Mrs. Universe competition in Miami in 2 months. And I was like, well, can the surgery wait until after I compete? Like this, maybe I can do it later. And of course it couldn't, because also this condition is also degenerative.
Yeah.
So sort of the more, weight bearing that you have, essentially it does more damage to your joints. And I certainly didn't want to damage my joint any further, because I was aware as well when I did have my first appointment with Dr. Wisney at Yale, that if my hip happened to collapse before my surgery, the surgery wouldn't be possible. It can't be done on collapsed joints. It can only be done on somewhat healthy joints. So if it collapsed, I would just need a full hip replacement. So I also took it upon myself at that point, again, trying to, grab as much control as I could
Mhm.
to sort of take it easy. I sort of put myself on bed rest in a way. I was just really doing minimal activities to make sure that I, as much as I could, I would preserve my hip. But yeah, I went through so many emotions, as many people do when they get any sort of a diagnosis like this. It's difficult, and then you have to process. And I'm thankful now, and not to say that I still don't go through things. I mean, I just had, and today is actually exactly 6 weeks post-op for my left hip
Wow.
surgery.
Right.
um, and I'm doing great, but still, there are bad days where I feel pain in my hip and I feel, oh my gosh, is this not working? Is it going to collapse? I worry about those things because I've also put so much into, and a lot of hope into these surgeries, and knock on wood, so far so good with both of them. And I'm thrilled. And like you said, I'm also in awe of medical technology and this amazing doctor. I sort of feel like he saved my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, look, I cannot believe when we talked, first you were going into, oh, I'm actually going to New York. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I love it, and just, Mikhail, I have to tell you, everything that you do with your pageant work and, coaching younger women, the things that you do in the midst of what the challenges you had, I admire that about you. And it's not easy. You have kids, you have your own family, and you're juggling between doing all of that, your nonprofit. And I think that's what all it's going to stay for us, right? We were talking about that the other day, helping each other and encouraging one another. That's the most important thing in life. So, and I'm so glad you had the opportunity to find the doctor. They called you, so everything worked out. So we will continue to pray for your recovery, that there's no worries anymore.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, I appreciate that, and all prayers, positive vibes, healing vibes, all is appreciated because like I said, I put sort of a lot of hope and faith sort of into this doctor and this surgery. And again, so far so good, but it feels like it's working so far. And yeah, I went to New York Fashion Week 4 weeks post-op because I was feeling great. And similar after my first surgery, 12 weeks after my first surgery, I was actually able to model for the Thai Embassy National Day. And these little things are sort of like little celebrations for me, and realizing that, my life, yes, it has changed. Things will never be the same in so many ways. But at the same time, I'm trying to see the beauty and the strength on the other side of this diagnosis. And I am seeing, I can still do a lot of the things that I did before and still be pretty good at them. I can't wear the big 5 and 6 inch pageant heels I used to wear, but
Sure.
that's okay. It's a new normal for me, and I think that's something that when someone does get a diagnosis and has to have surgery or go through some sort of treatments and whatnot, you do have to realize as well and adjust to your new normal. You might not necessarily be the same, and that's okay. Things could end up being better in ways. You never know. They're different, but it doesn't have to mean worse. You
Right.
need to look at the positives, and yes, navigating a new normal and figuring out what that is for you, and trying not to look at the things maybe that you might not be able to do anymore as a loss,
Mhm.
and look at the things maybe that are new opportunities.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was going to be my next question. You did mention that you were past, beauty queen and also the pageant coach. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because in the midst of, again, what I was saying earlier, dealing with a lot and going through your own recovery, you're still assisting so many people. So I would love to hear more about that.
Sure, yeah. So about 2.5 years ago, I opened, after giving up and crowning my successor. I was International Ms. USA 2020. I crowned my successor in New York City, and that was in 2021, and said, I think I want to coach. I've been in the game for 25 plus years, and I feel like I have a lot of knowledge and experience to pass on to others. And I want to help people. I want to help women in pageants. I want to empower them. I want to make them feel confident and feel beautiful, and also know the gifts that pageantry can give back to them. So I decided to open my own pageant consulting business called Carroll Crown Consulting, and it's been going amazing. Like each year it's grown so much. I was thrilled that this past year in December, I was nominated for and then made Pageant Planet's top 20 coaches of the year, which was
That's
really exciting. And I've been lucky to work with a number of different pageant systems and pageant queens. International Ms., of course, is one of my favorites and my baby. But like I said as well, at the time I got my diagnosis, I was Ms. USA Universe in the Ms. Universe and Ms. World International system. And they were so wonderful with me that, when I told them I couldn't compete, they said, Mikell, whenever you're ready, you can come back. You are Ms. USA. You can come back and compete for Mrs. Universe again. Don't worry, whenever you're ready. So someday that's in the works for me. But in the meantime, I am also going to be helping coach girls from that system. I coach women from all different systems, but things have been going great. And what I try to do really is take my clients and help them find what makes them unique and what are their strengths, and help to build upon that and really make sure that they're confident and know that they're also unique, and what they bring to the table is going to be really unique, and that's what's going to help them win, not being like everyone else.
amen to that. Thank you. Because I'm so like in tune with this women empowerment. And I think women generally, we're shy about certain things about us, whether, someone is shorter like myself or someone that's just a little bit on a heavier side. And we just think, someone else is always better, with whatever that they have to offer. And we forget about so much about our own talents and gifts. I think what you're doing is amazing. And I think so many, whoever the women are that are interested, you guys contact Mikell and she can coach you guys. And so tell us how they can get in touch with you. If anyone here is listening, they want coaching, or they want to know more about your diagnosis because it's something they're dealing with and they say, wow, I need to know where she went.
Sure. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram with sort of at Mikell, Mikell, Reed, Carroll, Carroll, just one word, or at Carroll, Carroll, Crown, Crown Consulting. So all one word again. So people can find me there and DM me with any questions that they have. And if they want to set up coaching sessions, I coach women again from all ages. I've even coached a couple of young girls and teens. So, but I mostly specialize in women who are older, like myself, who are in pageantry. And at 46, I'm not done. I don't think I've walked my last runway or stage.
46, girl, you look amazing. And I really think it's how we feel about ourselves, that internal that needs work first. And then people like yourself that coach the women, they can get there. So I think we do need definitely people like you with your experience to benefit. Mikhail, one last thing I always ask all of our special guests. And I'd like to know if there's anyone who's watching right now and there's something that they enjoy about this podcast, whether it's the women empowerment or how you advocated for yourself. And they're in the not such a great emotional state right now, and they're dealing with pain or something that they're unsure. What would you say to our audience that are feeling that way right now?
Sure. What I would say is that, we're all going to have days in our lives when we're not feeling great, when we're feeling down, when we're feeling like we're not enough, when we're feeling physical pain, maybe emotional pain. We all go through these things. So the number one important thing is to know you're not alone. There are people out there going through the same things that you are. And really tomorrow and even an hour or two from now, it's another time, it's another day. It's always a chance to sort of reset and really sort of change your life. Every day I look at as an opportunity to change your life and live a new story. And, try to live it as fully as you can because we only get one life, unfortunately. And for many of us, it doesn't isn't necessarily as long as we would like. So try to, live your life as fully as possible and also just have gratitude for what you do have. And that I think will help you to also gain perspective on your situation and to know that, okay, yes, right in this moment, you're not feeling great. Maybe you're feeling pretty low. Maybe you're feeling awful, horrific pain, but it isn't always going to be like this. Things will change. Things will get better. There's something out there that's better for you. So just keep going. Also, never give up. Dreams don't have an expiration date. Your life, what you want to do doesn't have an expiration date. So don't worry if you're a certain age and you're like, I've never done this. You still can. For the most part, most of us can still go out there and chase our dreams. And so I would encourage people to do that as well. It will make you feel uh, alive and like you have purpose and passion. For everyone who's watching, if you are going through something, just know you'll get through it. Someday you might even look back and laugh about what you've been going through. You may look back and feel grateful for what you went through, because oftentimes I think most things happen for a reason. And it isn't in that moment that we often learn the reason. It's usually many years, months later, and you'll realize that it may have been something that helped you in a way and made you stronger, made you better.
Absolutely. I like that too. Make you even stronger. I mean, I think all the pain does make you stronger. It gives you the tolerance
Yes,
for the major
I've
thing.
I've become a lot tougher after 2 hip surgeries. And that's one of the things I was most scared about, having surgery. I've
Well,
never had a major surgery, so I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is, terrifying." And I was scared of that, and I'm certainly much tougher now. I'm still a bit of a baby when it comes to pain, but I think I'm quite a bit tougher now than I was previous to my 2 hip surgeries.
of course. It's a story that you can tell when kids get older too. They see it now and then they'll remember how mom just, went through that and how much stronger she is. And stories like this is an important thing. Not only we share for others that they can learn something from it, but also others can leave that for a legacy for their family, for their children. It's not hard to do these stories, but I can work with you and we can work together how you want to share your story. So hit me up if you're interested. Hit the subscribe button if you're interested to hear more stories for upcoming interviews. Again, Mikell, I appreciate you. You have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Farnaz.